Guys, I want to help you change your life in this video. What we're going to cover is why you fail. And here's the thing, if you sabotage, if you set goals and you don't complete them, if you procrastinate, all of these things have the same symptoms behind them. And actually what you can do is you can use inversion thinking. That's one of the favorites of Charlie Munger, who just passed away last year, I believe, and use inversion thinking. So what you do is you say, what do successful people do? Or if I wanted to fail, what would I have to do? And then you can simply reverse that and you do all the things that you wouldn't do to fail. And then generally speaking, you'll find some degree of success. Now, I want to start this video off with I failed a lot in life. Like I have failed a lot. And what I've learned is there is no failure. I either win or I learn. And for me, that's an empowering belief that I have. And then there's also this idea with failure that failure has actually provided the foundation for the setup for me. So many times before, I failed with a business with my father, but that provided the setup for what I'm doing right now. And it was really painful, but it actually had a great thing. And so we look at failure and we think, why am I failing? Why am I failing? And you don't know. How many people have started tons of businesses that all failed? And then the next business they start, they become millionaires or billionaires. So failure isn't always that. Failure is just a learning process. But what I want to cover today is if you looked at your life and you looked at it linearly and you didn't change anything and you said, okay, here's where I'm at right here. Here's A and I'm going to get down to B, and you don't change anything about your life. And you just follow that path. Where will you be? Will you be satisfied with that trajectory? What are you working towards? Because orienting towards your future self is helpful. There's so many people in the space right now that, and I'm going to piss some people off by saying this, but there's so many people in the space that are like, oh, I just want to be my authentic self and I'm just trying to figure out who I am. And they're so focused on who they are that they can't actually figure out who they could be. And when you focus on who you could be, you actually become more of who you are. You actually put your most ideal self in the future and then orient to that. Benjamin Hardy wrote a great book on this. It's Be Your Future Self Now. And the concept is simple. It's what you orient to that matters in life and finding that direction. And so if you're wondering why you fail, oftentimes it's that people, and I think Benjamin Hardy said this as well, you need to take 20 steps in a single direction, but most people take 20 steps in different directions. They take one step in 20 different directions. And so that describes so many people that I talk to where they're trying to hit some big goal. They're trying to get on a virtuous cycle where their life gets up here rather than down here. They want to elevate in some way. It doesn't matter where you're at. Dude, I know plenty of millionaires that are miserable. I know plenty of people that aren't millionaires that are really happy, but they still struggle. Because it's a struggle to be poor, just like it's a struggle to be rich. So if you're going to have to work hard for both, why wouldn't you just choose to be rich? Why wouldn't you just choose to have good relationships? Dude, bad relationships are a lot of work. If you're going to have to deal with your health one way or the other, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Why wouldn't you just go ahead and do that? And that's a simple process. It's actually not really that complicated, but it's orienting to say, what do I really want and how do I get there? So this whole process starts with just a single decision right here. And I put a triangle there, because that's to decide. You want change, triangle for change, right? It's physics in there. But you make a decision to change. And how decisions are made is you have to emotionally get behind it. If you don't have certainty behind your decision, how long is that going to stick? We all know people that they make these decisions to go to the gym on January 1st and they're out of the gym by February. Half of them are out of the gym by January 10th. Like, let's be real. So a decision is only as good as you anchor it. And you have to feel that decision because commitment wanes over time, doesn't it? Think about it. You make a commitment for something, you really want it, but then a month later, you're like, yeah, but it's a lot of work. Do I really want this? And if you don't reinforce that decision over and over again, then you lose the momentum with it. And that's the thing. With decisions, you have to actually reinforce them. But it all starts with a decision. It all starts with you waking up one day or watching some random guy on YouTube and being like, you know what? He's got a point. Maybe I do want something better. Maybe my relationships are good, but I want better relationships. Maybe my business is good, but it could be doing better, because we all know we can be doing better in life. And that's the point of striving. Striving is healthy, and it involves growth and contribution. And we need to feel these things. If we don't feel these things, then our soul withers and dies. And so it starts there. And then the next thing that you have to do, so if you wanted to fail, the next thing you would do is not take any responsibility. You would not do that. So instead, if you wanted to get on a virtuous path, you would take absolute and extreme responsibility. And why do I say this? Well, because you can focus on the things that you can control or the things that you can't control. And which you decide to focus on matters greatly. And when you decide to take responsibility in your life, think about that. When you decide to take responsibility in your life, you take control. You say, it's up to me. Nobody else is going to come save me. Nobody else is going to do this thing. Nobody else is going to get me to the life that I want, and nobody else can. Because if you don't build your life, it has no value. Think about rich people. How many wealthy people are out there that they end up doing drugs, they die early, they're totally dissatisfied. And we all know that because they didn't have to build it. They didn't have to work for it. And so they don't value it, and they're searching for orientation in life. They're searching for what they want. And so that's the next thing that you have to do. You actually have to take responsibility for your decision to say, I can change this. This must change now, and I must change it. Right? Those three things. And that starts the process of change. Now, the next thing that happens is you actually have to get on truth. And so truth looks like this. It's actually identifying the gap. You've made the decision over here. You understand the gap. You understand you don't want to be down here anymore. You don't want to end up here in 5 years. You want to end up here. So you establish a gap. And this is the hardest part for people. The hardest part is to actually get on truth, because we lie to ourselves more than anybody else. And if I asked you, hey, do you want to go on a vacation? And you said, yeah. Well, I'd say, okay, where do you want to go? And maybe you say, I want to go to Maui. Okay, cool. Well, where are you coming from? You would give me your destination, and you would probably know that. However, in most people's lives, they don't actually identify where they're starting at because they can't get on truth. So I want to actually reverse this. And rather than going at, hey, here's where I feel like I'm at, I want you to look at the results that you're getting from life. And do the results accurately reflect the image of yourself that you have? And this is really important, right? Because accurate self-reflection is the key to being able to grow. Because if you can't accurately self-reflect, if you can't accurately identify where you're at, if you're just telling the fucking, like if you're just lying all the time and you can't tell the fucking truth, well, it's very difficult to grow. And it's very difficult to admit when you make mistakes because you can't tell the truth. And that sounds pretty basic, but it's actually not. When you start talking to people, you'll see all the lies they tell about themselves. Well, I'm in pretty good shape. Oh, I'm still an athlete. And you're like, really? Are you? Dude, you're carrying 50 extra pounds. You're not an athlete anymore. I get that you're holding on to that mentality of yourself, but bro, it's not accurate. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good financially. Hey man, can I borrow $1,000? Really? That's not accurate self-reflection. My business is doing good, but I'm always in over my head. I have people stealing from me. I can't figure out how to hire good people. There's just no good people out there. You know, maybe you're attracting the wrong people. Maybe you haven't built yourself into the person that can actually attract the employees that you want to hire. Maybe you should consider actually paying them more, and you'll attract a better quality. But guess what? High-level people don't want to go work for low-level people. That makes sense, right? So if you want to attract better employees, You've got to actually become a higher level person. You've got to become the type of person who they want to be around. That is so important. And if you can't do that, I mean, that's how some of these guys out there have built huge businesses. Grant Cardone, dude, he gets applications from people all around the country. They want to move to Miami. They want to move and go work for him because they see the culture that he's built. They want to be a part of that team. Same thing with Andy Elliott, man. I bet same thing with Brad Lee. All of these guys attract a certain level of talent, a certain quality, because they portray the qualities that they attract. And that's the key. And so if you're not getting those people, you have to start attracting that. And the way to start attracting that is you first have to get on truth with where you're at. And then you got to figure out, hey, where do you really want to go? And you have to get really clear about this. Because if you say, hey man, I want to get up here, but you're not really clear about it, then you won't actually hit it. Does that make sense to these people out here? I hope this is making sense for you, and I hope it's resonating. It was Robert Brault that said, most people are kept from their goals not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And the thing is, it's incredibly difficult to cast a massive vision. Jeff Bezos started Amazon, and I believe at one point they were facing bankruptcy, or they were getting close to bankruptcy, and they were going to have to shut the doors. You know, they had the crash in '99, and they got it bad again in I think 2001, and they were looking at what they could do. And instead of closing the doors, he held on to his big vision. He held on to that big vision, but he also was flexible in his approach. So holding on to that big vision, he said, okay, we're going to pivot. We're going to move into cloud computing. We've got this extra stuff here and we can dominate this space. And now you hear about Amazon Web Services, and they have a huge amount of the internet because of that pivot, because he stayed clear on his goal, but he had to get clear here about that goal and have massive clarity. And then the next step here is you have to actually get obsessed. So at some point along this line, you want obsession, because that's what it takes. Let's face it. Everybody says, oh, follow your passions, bro. Oh, I just want to do things when I feel like it. But you can't do things when you feel like it. You got to work late sometimes. You got to show up. You got to show up when like the test of a man is, do you show up when you most don't feel like showing up? That's the test of your character. It's not a test of your character if every day is sunny. It's a test of your character if you walk through the snow uphill when it's -30. That's the test. And so when you get going along here, at some point you need obsession. And if you wanted to fail, you would have casual interest. You would have casual interest. That's what you would have. Because somebody with casual interest would not be capable of getting on this upward trajectory. Somebody with casual interest would only be interested in living their same monotonous life and not doing anything interesting. So that is part of how it works. Like, everybody has big goals. Everybody wants to get up here. Go talk to people. Oh man, I've got these big dreams. I have all these intentions. I've got all this stuff to do. Your goals don't fucking matter. It's process over prize, bro. And you have to have obsession on what are you rewarding yourself on day to day there. Are you doing the things that are either moving you closer to there, or are you doing things that are taking you right down the path of mediocrity? That's a big question. And in order to accurately reflect there, we got to go back to truth. And that's something that a lot of people can't handle. I hope this is tracking, guys. So the next thing that you would want to do if you wanted to go up there is you would ask a better level of questions, right? So I'm going to put questions here. And you would ask a better level of questions, because if you can't learn to get outside yourself, if you can't learn to have higher level questions, then you don't know what you don't know in that learning experience. But when you start asking audacious, big questions, you start getting better answers. Your brain is a prediction machine, but it's also a problem-solving machine. And so when you ask outlandish questions, you start getting results that you never would have before. If you say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm committed to do this, your brain starts searching for a way to solve that problem because you've given it that problem to solve. You said, hey, there's no way out, dude. We are doing this one way or the other. So your brain says, all right, well, if I can't, finagle my way down here, I've got to figure out how to get up there. And you start asking better level questions. Now, some people, they go to mentors. Other people, they go and they look at, hey, has somebody else done this? Okay, I see somebody else has done the thing that I want. Somebody else has grown their business by 500%. How do I grow my business by 500%? That's a big question. 500% is a pretty good amount for an established business. Okay, well, what did they do? And you start looking at it from that possibility. Now, if you didn't want to end up here and you wanted to stay on the path of mediocrity, you would ask no questions. You would simply think that you have all the answers and you wouldn't try to find new information. New information gives you new possibilities, and you have to be open to that information. If you don't believe it's possible, you're not even going to ask the question. So asking impossible questions makes impossible things become possible. Think about the iPhone with Steve Jobs. People thought a lot of what he did was impossible, or actually the iPod. And he asked an impossible question. How can we put this thing, how can we put 1,000 songs into somebody's pocket in a tiny device? And I know for some of you listening out there, that may not be a revolution at all, but I'm telling you, from people like me, who at one point was carrying around CDs and listening to music that way, you want to go on a run, you got to take your CD player or whatever it was. I mean, guys, come on, that was pretty funny. But for real, that's how it goes. But he started asking impossible questions and he got results that people thought were impossible, but he brought into reality because he asked that next level of questions. So it's part of following that process up there and then sticking with that will take you there. And then lastly here, sorry, I was looking at some notes over there. Lastly, the big differentiator, because I think a lot of people get stuck in self-growth. A lot of people get stuck saying, oh, I want to grow and I'm working on myself. Dude, I know people that have been working on themselves for a fucking decade. And here's the only measure that I have. What does your life look like? Where are you at? Yeah, but I'm way happier than I was 10 years ago. Are you? Because every time we talk, you tell me all the things that you don't have. You tell me all about how you're being the person that you're not proud of. You tell me all about how you're doing things that are incongruent with who you profess to be. So what is it? It's okay. Like, I'm not going to have judgments here, but I'm making evaluations. There's a difference between judgments and evaluations. Evaluations are impartial, man. You're not drawing judgment from those. You're just stating the truth. You're saying, hey, the facts don't line up with what you're saying. And so the ultimate test of all of this is that you've got to take action. And it's hard to take resourceful, strategic action if you can't be truthful, if you can't be obsessed, if you can't ask next level questions, because action alone isn't going to get you there. Dude, I know people that work 18 hours a day and they're always behind. It's not about that. So the action that you take has to be strategic and it has to be in congruence. And if you have internal beliefs where you have conflict or you don't believe something is possible, so you never go for it, that's going to keep you stuck. So anyways, if you wanted to get up here, you would take action. And if you didn't, you would probably take no action. So if you want to stay on the same path, just don't take any action, don't ask any questions, have casual interest, don't tell the truth, don't identify your gap, tell yourself everything is fine, even though all your conversations are dominated by you wanting more. And then lastly, don't make any decisions. And you have the perfect recipe for mediocrity. It's just ordinariness, man. And there's nothing, I try not to put judgments into the videos because I know there's a lot of people satisfied with their life. And here's the thing. If you're satisfied, great. I think satisfaction is awesome. But if you're not, if your conversations don't reflect somebody that's satisfied, if your actions don't, if your desires don't, if you feel a calling within you that you have more to offer, You want more impact. You want more influence. You want more status. If you want those things, you know you could have better health. You know you could have better relationships. You know you could be making more money. Well, then you have to go on a process. And whenever you decide to start that, you'll start getting the results. And the results are always a lagged reflection of your true identity, if you think about it, right? So your identity is who you're committed to being. And the results that you get are then just a lagged reflection. Like if you're fit, it doesn't happen after one workout. It happens after months or years for a lot of people. So it's really just a lagged reflection. So anyways, guys, if you wanted to fail, then just do all the things down here. And if you want to get on an upward path, do some of these things. Now, I have other videos. I'm going to be making a lot more that I'll go into more nuance here because there's a lot of things that people need. And there's a lot of steps along here that hold people back: fear, apathy, inner conflict, beliefs. They don't take control. They don't take responsibility. There's a lot of things. But whatever's stopping you, it all starts with a decision, and one decision can change your entire destiny. And if you feel that, make that decision today. Be great, everyone.